Welcome back, football fans, to another episode of Necessary Roughness right here on the Bite Size Sports Network. We've got a big show today. Some crazy injury news we're going to get to at the top. Then we got a little bit of Josh Allen discourse as well as Week 3 picks. So stick around. And here we are. So we're going to jump into some news at the top of the show. But first, we've got a very special guest with us tonight, Buffalo Burn, joining us for
welcome,
special segment that we'll get into here shortly. But first of all, I'm your host, John Boyd, joined by my co-hosts, Nick Winograd and Zach Keebler. Gentlemen, as well as yourself, Buffalo Burn, how are you doing this evening? Let's go clockwise.
Yeah, we're chilling, man.
Counterclockwise works.
Yeah, we're going counterclockwise, bro. I go first every time. I'm excited. We got my boy, Buff Mafia 716. I've been watching him for the last 5 years on everything. I'm very excited to run some NFL stuff with him right now. Let's get it going.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
I'm doing great. Thank you, lads, for having me on. Nick, shout out, my man. Following your page as well, the Buffalo Times, for a minute, and all love, all good stuff. You guys are gonna make me really play Josh Allen defender today, which is honestly not what I'm accustomed to on my account because it's easy to get oversaturated with the Mafia, and you get every level of the spectrum of Bills and NFL fan on there, as far as Josh Allen apologists and the, everywhere from there to the blow the whole organization up after one game fans. So I'm excited to just, dish it out with you guys. Let's go. And we are in the thick of the NFL season. What a beautiful time to be an NFL fan. If you are not a fan of a team dealing with one of these horrid injuries that we have witnessed over the last couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Keebs, how's your blood pressure?
I'm doing good too. My blood pressure dropped a little bit, thankfully, after we pulled off that comeback against the Cardinals. Spiked a little bit right now because I have some sports bets going on with the MLB. But other than that, we're doing good. Ready to get into it.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, we've got a lot of stuff to get into. But right at the top, I think something that a lot of us fans were – probably a little taken aback by, and definitely something we feel terrible about. It's terrible for the game to see that Nick Chubb injury. I'm not sure if you guys saw the actual injury when it took place. I know on live TV they kind of tried to curb eyes away from it as much as they could, which is an awful sign. But there were some little videos circulating on Twitter. I accidentally saw it. I wish I hadn't. Did you guys actually see the injury?
I saw the very last part of it. I didn't see the whole clip because I just heard how gruesome it was, and I didn't want to put myself through watching that entirely.
Yeah. No, yeah. So go ahead, Burn.
I'm a sicko. I went and tried to find it immediately, mainly because they're not showing us on the broadcast what is going on. And I'll be honest, it was horrible. My first thought was compound fracture. There's no way they're not showing us that unless it's now. Thank God, I don't think it was anywhere on that, Kevin Ware level. Still horrible. Bent a completely unnatural way. Sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just terrible for a player like Chubb, who is just, one of the best, really, in my opinion, to ever do it. Has some of the best numbers of all time. Chubb is just it's a terrible, terrible load of that Browns team.
Yeah, the only running back in NFL history to average over 5 yards per carry in each of his first 6 NFL seasons, and certainly the best runner of the football in the league right now, for my money. But, it's tough for that team. He's a great guy as well off the field, so it's an awful, awful injury to see regardless. And, yeah, it looked like a compound fracture to me too when you saw it that way, just with how unorthodox the bend of that leg was. But it's part of this violent game that we can't look away from. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Kareem Hunt is visiting with the team right after I pick up Jerome Ford on waivers. So
I already picked up Kareem Hunt on waivers. So
nice.
He's not even signed, but I'm just assuming he'll be. So
yeah. Before we get to another just awful injury, we've got a couple of shout outs here to the chat. Alejandro, thanks for joining us.
Rico.
Zach with just a C, thanks for joining us. Lee, you are the man. Lee rarely misses an episode. Too early to blow it up if they lose to the Chargers this week. All right, Lee, we'll come back to you.
It's too early for all
we'll come back to that.
Thanks for tapping in, man. MVP agenda. We'll get to some Lamar action. Justin Herbert, I love you every week, but this week we'll see you Sunday. And Jimmy the Third, thanks for tapping in, brother. We will have a ton to get to. Drop your thoughts in the comments as we move through these topics here. The other injury I wanted to touch on was that to Shaq Thompson. I don't know if you guys saw this one, but it was a pretty sick hip toss actually from Deshaun Williams on Trevor Penning. Penning is a motherfucker. He's gonna beat you up all game. I think he gets under guys' skin a little bit, and essentially in an area of the field where they weren't going to really be involved in the play anymore, on the edge, Trevor Penning playing left tackle, drives Deshaun Williams a little bit, throws him over his hip, and drops Trevor Penning directly on the back of Shaq Thompson's left leg and ankle. And he is going to be out for the season for Carolina. Huge leadership presence, great locker room guy, another guy you hate to see this type of thing happen to. And it was really just a freak injury because it was, it wasn't even necessarily a football play. It's just a big guy getting dropped on your leg. So it's got to hurt like hell. And that's a big loss for them. It's not like they were going anywhere this season necessarily. But that's another one I wanted to bring up just because it was so gruesome, brutal injury. And we're only 2 weeks in now. And we've got a few of these injuries that are starting to crop up and guys already being ruled out for the season. The other one too, that I'd like your guys' takes on quick is CJ Gardner-Johnson. We don't have the news yet, to my knowledge, but as of about 5 p.m. today, they're thinking that it's Jesus Christ. They're thinking that it's
I'll acknowledge that one.
They're thinking that it's a torn pec for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And that would probably rule him out for the year. He's already on IR. What do you think? Where do you think that leaves everybody's favorite team in the Detroit Lions? We'll start with you, Bern, just because I know you've only got a limited amount of time here with us. But
yeah,
what are your thoughts on that CJ injury? How do you think the Lions kind of deal with that?
It's devastating. I mean, that's the guy who I'm sure everybody's heard the storyline leading up to this Week 2 game. He's trying to revolutionize the culture of that fan base and some of the energy around that organization. Obviously, a guy who, definitely a provoker from the defensive back position, a guy who really you want on your team, don't want to be going against. If he is to miss the entire season, huge blow. Now the Lions I can't believe that this is a sentence exiting my mouth about the Detroit Lions, but potentially thinking more longer term, as in like a postseason run than racking up all these wins during the season, partly because of the division they play in. Still so early, though. You got to imagine if CJ Gardner-Johnson is to miss an extended amount of time, that is just I can't really think of another player outside of Aiden Hutchinson on that defense who they would be more sore to be without. So big loss for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a heart and soul type guy. Even just having gotten there, he's already kind of all the way bought into that culture. He's a hype train type of guy in and of himself, and really fits exactly what the Lions are going for. So yeah, I thought the same thing. It's going to be a tough one to bounce back from. And yeah, I like that take. I loved Brian Branch coming out I had a meltdown when the Vikings took Jordan Addison with Brian Branch on the board. But, you win some, you lose some. I think Addison will be fine. But I love Brian Branch. And CJ actually hasn't been in the slot as much as we suspected he might. So they might have an easier time replacing those snaps than they would have if he was really that down-to-down nickel defender for them like we thought he might be. But definitely a tough loss. So why don't we just jump into the main event here? I'm going to mediate. I'll just kind of tee you guys up a little bit. But this is a continuation of a discussion that we had on Sportsbook Junkies podcast last night. Oh, yeah, last night, right?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is our newest show on the Bite Size Sports Network, hosted by the guy below me, talking sports bets on several different sports. And that chat was pretty jumping. Nick and I were in there along with some other folks. And Keebler started to poke the bear a little bit. And
the Bears fan poked the bear. I just helped.
It was good content. Oh, I see what you did there. It was good content, though, and I'd like to flesh that conversation out just a little bit. So, and I'd like to have this be where I can kind of frame a poignant question, and just kind of add some structure to the debate here, with kind of how I form that. So, essentially, the sentiment behind Keebler's statement was that he doesn't think that by the end of the year, this season, Josh Allen will still be considered a top 10 QB. Or maybe he said that he will be more like a top 10 QB than that top 3, top 4 range that
closer to that 10 range.
Yeah, closer to that 10 range. So, given that you kind of brought that up, Keebler, I'd like to hear you flesh that out just a little bit as far as what kind of signs you're seeing with Josh that sort of made you feel that way initially, and the type of guys that you feel like might be able to pass him up, at least in the general zeitgeist.
Yes, please explain to us who can pass him up. Please explain.
Okay, so basically from the words of Bills fans, he's going back to his tendencies from what he had 4 years ago. The person who said that is in that top left corner right up there. The tendencies he had against the Texans. You have a game against your division rival, season opener. You're supposed to be top of your game, maybe a little bit of rust, but you go out and you throw 3 interceptions against a division rival, and you get outplayed by a guy who's not even a top 30 quarterback in the league, in Zach Wilson, after Aaron Rodgers goes down. That being said, Josh had a good game. The Raiders' defense isn't that great, I'll admit, but you still got to play who you play, and that's what it comes down to. He had a good game yesterday. I think, he had over 300 passing yards, right?
He didn't have 300. He had 275. He was like 31 to 36, and he had touchdowns, no picks, no fumbles. Perfect game, basically.
Yeah. So, with that being said, just the performance that he had against a division rival and seeing what type of tendencies he did have in that game that could end up coming back for future games down the line, big games, when he's been known to not play great in the playoffs. For instance, the game last year when they only beat Skylar Thompson by 3 points. It just comes down to that. And I think right now I have Mahomes above him. Mm-hmm. You can make the case for Hurts, definitely, coming off that MVP year, having a decent year. Burrow, I'm not really going to talk about because he's had a very bad start to this year. So
let's just leave him out. Yeah, conveniently, let's leave him out.
Number one, Hurts didn't win MVP, and now you're saying he's decent.
I said he was in the running for.
Let's keep saying no. Let's let him get the other quarterbacks though that he's taking above.
Yeah, continue because Burrow's not there.
Yeah. When it comes
we're not counting Burrow.
When it comes to guys who can pass Josh, I have Trevor in that conversation. I have Justin Herbert if they can figure that out over in Los Angeles. he can pass him. Statistically, you can argue Kirk Cousins might as well pass him by the end of this year.
Oh, here we go, bro.
Let me see what else we got here. I'm just gonna pull up.
You're going on your phone, bro. He's going on his phone, bro. Like,
Yeah, I'm pulling up something.
what are you pulling up? Did you just get a text from like your dealer? Like, what's going on?
I got a text from my barber, but
Like,
I think that if healthy, Aaron Rodgers was primed to have a better year, but that's not going to happen now, obviously. I think if the Dolphins have sustained success, Tua could be in that conversation for a top 7 QB in the league. And that about rounds out the list, in my opinion. But just seeing what that
so it's kind of like it, you know, it might seem steeper in like a single statement form, but you're kind of just laying out like a 1-tier drop for him almost.
Yeah,
more
exactly.
than like, you know. So I mean, I think that's has a little bit more credence, but Bern, I'll let you go first here with your rebuttal. I mean, are there any guys on that list that jump out to you as like, you know, no shot they surpass Josh? If you see kind of the same type of up and downs you've seen from Josh through 2 games, and then, you know, say that kind of that tier that Keebler kind of just laid out, any guys that jump out to you right away where it's like no shot?
Yeah, Keebs. So here's the problem. I mean, the 2 guys that really jump out are the 2 that weren't even named, because you gave us 8. To say that he's not a top 10 quarterback is so, like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you in the Nick Wright class, but is so trying to get attention headlines. 2 of the guys you named are hurt, in Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow, and I guess we can exclude those guys. So let's talk. Obviously, Mahomes, Hurts. You said Cousins, Trevor Lawrence. That's 4.
Tua,
Herbert and Tua is 5-6. So, and then Josh, hypothetically, at 7. And then I guess if you included a healthy Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, that would bump him down to 9. If you want to maybe one of the young guys just burst onto the scene. The last 3 years, Bills have not finished anywhere lower than top 3 in passing offenses. I know you can draw the Dable, the Dorsey comparisons. The turnovers thing, I'm going to be speaking in general terms here as far as statistics. I'm not going to break down the whatever 1 or 2 touchdowns more that Burrow and Mahomes have than Allen, the 2 or 3 more interceptions than he has than each of those guys. The turnovers, I get the fumbles thing. If you want to just say that your personal preference in a quarterback is someone that does not turn the ball over as much as Josh Allen, I'm not going to win that argument, because the guy has the most turnovers, whatever, since he's joined the league.
That's also part of where I was going with that in my argument.
Yeah. And that's a very, and I'm not going to, there's no Bills fan that can really counter that, because Josh and his turnovers, cool. Here's what I'll say to that is if you're watching, if you're a Bills fan, and I'm sure any fan of any team will go to bat for their guy. And I know the Kirk Cousins fans are notorious for that, and they have reason to be, because statistically Kirk Cousins doesn't get much better. Josh Allen last year, I know these weren't all his turnovers, but that beatdown week 1 against the Rams, the Bills turned the ball over 4 times. They won the game by 3 scores. Perfect. Like the Jets game, Josh Allen throws 3 turnovers. The Bills get the ball to start overtime and then go 3 and out to start overtime. So some of these turnovers, I get they're just backbreakers at times for the Bills, and that's no excuse to what Josh Allen puts out there on the field. But only Mahomes has a better winning record, if you're excluding Josh Allen's rookie year. In the last 4 years, it's Mahomes and it's Allen, since Josh has been a true, I'd say, entrenched contending starter for this Buffalo Bills team. And that, if you want to maybe say is the quarterback win stat, maybe that's putting too much, or giving Josh too much credit for what the Bills team under McDermott's been able to do over the last few years. But to say, so the not a top 10 quarterback thing, I think that's just, I don't know, unless you can give me actual names of guys who you truly see could finish by the end of this year, putting ahead Josh. Top 5, I mean, again, for me, this is just my personal opinion. I think you can put Mahomes ahead of Josh. If you want to argue Hurts, sure. Burrow, when he's healthy, yeah. I don't think there's any world where Josh Allen does not finish this 2023 season as the fourth best quarterback or better. Trevor Lawrence is fine. Trevor Lawrence has not proven anything near on the NFL stage that Josh Allen has. Outside of the second half of last season, his numbers, you go look up Trevor Lawrence's stats before he started getting hot at the end of last season. Dougie P, shout out Dougie P. I just went off. That was my TED Talk. That was probably way too long. Let's hear Johnny NFL. Yeah, I probably went. Josh Allen fans, please, you get us going. And we will, yeah, let's hear it.
You're good. Go ahead, Keeb.
One name I forgot to mention was Lamar Jackson, just with how efficient efficient he is in the red zone, can still move the ball, make plays, even not given a great receiving core. This year it's a little different. He has a better receiving core than he's had in past years, and that's why they're shifting more to a passing offense. But I think that he can definitely be thrown in that conversation. That's one name that I forgot.
That's a good name, and I'll give you Lamar. So as far as the projection, I think there's a lot of and myself, believe me. After the game one, I went on a live stream the next morning, and talk about, I don't want to call myself fake Bills fan, but a guy who is sick of backbreaking turnovers, which I'm sure a lot of Bills fans can empathize. We've become used to over the years. I was going on the next live stream like, the Bills can't win a Super Bowl if Josh is going to have a game like this once every 4 games. And that is just straight up true. Like, we won't if we're turning the ball over 3 or more times once every 4 games under Josh Allen. I think my big point, and the main reason I wanted to come on here, is to really just articulate that a lot of these turnovers are I don't want to just say circumstantial, but come in moments that don't have real season-long impacts for the Bills. And I bring up that Rams game from last year as just one example. In a game that we won soundly, but still turned the ball over 4 times. The Jets game, those 3 turnovers with Jordan Whitehead, you're going to have a lot of people. I'm not going to be one of those people making excuses as far as the arm punt. Looks like we might have lost. That's no worries. I was going to say, I'll just keep rocking and rolling. I was going to say, the arm punt, I get the unforced turnovers from Josh. That's got to get cut out. And where you might roll with a Lamar Jackson, where you might roll with a Jalen Hurts, is both of those guys, I think it's fair to say, don't have that kind of track record of a problem that Josh Allen has put out there on tape. But, lot of season left, I guess, is my point. And, we're going to see how it all plays out. If you want to say Josh Allen's 5th best in the NFL after some of those guys that you just named, I can't make a huge argument. But to say that he's top 10th or lower, I mean, come on.
I said he'll finish closer to that 10 mark.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Maybe I missed the actual closer to that 10 mark. I mean, maybe, but you'd have to have a serious continuance of regression, which I know he just played the Raiders. I get that. I mean, he was 13 of 13 at one point. I get it's the Raiders. We'll see. We got a really good Washington defense coming up, really good front. We'll see how the offensive line continues to build off of that strong performance. Max Crosby, 0 sacks, barely even got close to Josh Allen, other than like 1 play, which still went for a touchdown. But we'll see. Long season. We got some better defenses coming up. Be good to see if Josh can put together some of those vintage moments against some tougher competition than the Raiders, because I am with you. I get that it's the Raiders. I get it. We'll see. It's a long season.
Like I said pre-show, I can't really talk because we just beat the Cardinals, but
Josh Dobbs season, baby. And that's where, and I was talking to you too pre-show, like as a Giants supporter, I was getting frustrated for you guys and how that game was starting to unfold, because I know the Giants can be better than that. And I know Josh Allen can be better than what we saw week 1 against the Jets. I do know. I know that. I know. So
Josh Allen, in my eyes, just has very high highs, but also very low lows. And that's where that consistency aspect starts to become a factor.
I'm with you. And here's the deal with the low lows, though. I think that, like, outside of that Jets game, week 1, the 3 turnover game, I got to also touch on something you said about has known to not be good in the playoffs. He has a winning record in the playoffs. I get the Skylar Thompson game. To me, that was just a meltdown of our defense and one ridiculous fumble by Josh late in the game. And that's kind of speaking into what I mentioned. Like, he has those backbreakers at times. But overall, Bills fans, I think, we haven't become accustomed to that overall, especially not in the playoffs. Like, I don't think those moments – Bengals game, complete meltdown last year all across the board. We're not putting that on Josh. The Dolphins game I just mentioned, I think that was, the year before, guys. What more can that guy do in the playoffs? The 13 seconds debacle, don't even get me talking about that. My heart's going to break in a million pieces all over again. We'll see. We're riding with our guy, I guess, in Buffalo is really and Nick, you want to add anything as far as just Bills fans? And maybe that's part of the painful irony of this is we finally found a guy who we can rally behind. And maybe he isn't that, top 7 talent that we do need to get us to the promised land. I'm personally willing to rock with him. I like what we've built around him this year, the addition of Kincaid, and we'll see. It's a long season. I, for one, I'm excited as hell to see how this all starts to unfold, especially against some tougher defenses, like I mentioned in Washington.
Yeah. No, like you really good points. Like I think you're very poised with your response. Like it's very true. Like he said some names. I can't really agree with them. Like Lamar's done nothing this season to prove that he's better. And before the season started, we didn't say Lamar was better. Trevor hasn't done anything this year to be better, and we didn't say he was better before the season. Hurts has been kind of mid. He's kind of actually looked like he's regressed a little bit. He's kind of he's the hit on Hurts early in his career was that he's a little too too patient, and that instead of just going at one route, he goes and gets AJ Brown and becomes a stud. Now, like the Devontae Smith, AJ's all pissed off because he's not getting the ball as much as Devontae Smith is. So this has not looked great early on. Burrow obviously not. Mahomes not. If we wanted to say who's the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, just put CJ Stroud in because he had a good game on Sunday and threw for 350 yards. Like it's so early in the year that nobody's really playing that well. Has had a good season so far. It's been 2 games. He's 1-1, or he's 0-2. Sorry, he's 0-2. So that's not really a thing. Listen, like the Bills have won like 37 some games, like 38 games over the last 3 years. Like that's the most over the last 3 years in franchise history. Like he's completely transcended the way that we've, our entire franchise would. We in 2016, 2017, we were a team that our defense was really, and we were a team that we were very limited offensively. The most wins we're ever going to get was like 9. Now the most wins we can get is like 50. I mean, like the sky is the complete limit with Josh. So just to take him out of like the top 5 just because he had a bad game week 1 in a big Monday night game that maybe just got him. It's just kind of unfair, it was a big game, but he didn't really rise to the occasion, which is fine. It happens. I was there. He really played a perfect game. Like everything was there. He made every right decision. He wanted to go. I could tell he wanted to go to some options that weren't there, and he kind of stopped and was like, no, throw to Kincaid. Knox is open. Cook is open. So you really saw him just kind of learn from those mistakes week 1, and I think that Josh is somebody who you really don't want the week after he really struggles because he's going to learn from it and he's going to play really, really well. And that's what he did on Sunday. So, there's a lot of quarterbacks in the league. We can name all and say that he's going to be better than Josh Allen if you want to, but in my mind, there's really only like 2 or 3.
Nick, can you give us your top 5 quarterbacks? Not to cut you off. I think you give us your top 5. Let's go around just all of ours right now. Sorry to interrupt too. Just give us your top 5. Let's go around. Top 5 quarterbacks right now. This is not just based off of week 2, but also a little bit. What are you thinking, man?
Okay.
Where would you put Josh?
Yeah. So, or not, I'm actually gonna take Burrow out of the top 5, and I'm gonna put Tua in because of how good he's looked. Yeah, he's looked really good. Like he could probably be an MVP favorite if he keeps this up. Like by week 7, they'll probably be saying Tua. And we don't like the Finns, man. We don't like the Finns, but I'm gonna probably go Mahomes, Hurts, Josh, and then like
it's a tough one. My point, and I think we're on the same page. In my opinion, Josh is in that one tier, and I can't remember who used the word tier earlier, but that was a really good way of describing it. It's kind of like I think people just have a different opinion of what tier Josh falls into. And then to your point, look, those turnovers. There is a very valid case if you are the kind of person that does not want that on their football team to bump him into that second tier. And I'm sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Tua, and then you got one more for that 5th spot.
I'd say Burrow, but I mean, he's great. We know he's great, but if he's going to continue to play like this and the O-line continues to not give him support, I mean, and Chase hasn't looked the same. Now Lee is saying, come on, guys, the sideline of the Bills is a major problem. You don't see any raw or high fives, just blame. Well, Lee, sorry, buddy, but like I was there literally on the sideline 2 days ago. There's a lot of high fives. There's a lot of not only blame. I don't know what. Go watch the Micah Hyde mic'd up video that they just put out like an hour ago. A lot of excitement on that sideline.
The negative aspects, so that way you can formulate a negative opinion. I agree. I agree that I'm not on the same side as Lee on this. I'm saying the media just tries to push a fake narrative that isn't there, like on every team.
Oh, you're definitely not. You're not wrong. Yeah.
like I said, like they're actually probably more supportive than in any team I've seen. Like anytime that anybody makes nobody's down on each other. Maybe he's talking about Diggs, but Diggs is like one of the most supportive people as well. Like in that Jets game, Josh is obviously having a tough one, and the guy that goes 14, Diggs goes up to him and be like, "Yo, I know you're having a tough game, but we need you right now." And he goes and gets that field goal. Obviously, we don't win the game, but he was the probably sole reasons why Josh was able to kind of get out of his head in that game and get back to being himself and get that nice drive going. Because that last drive, sending us to over looked like Josh Allen. The entire other game did not. Watching Diggs do that, like he's an incredible teammate. People really give him a bad rap though.
Nick, it sounds like you were considering Joe Burrow for that 5th spot. Would you concede that if he's healthy, he's cracking your top 5, Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I mean he's earned that today. He's earned.
I was going to say Keebler, top 5, your top 5 quarterbacks, bona fide 5 right now, not just based off of the first 2 weeks of football. Go.
Right. So, I mean, I'm gonna contribute that a little bit, just because we have seen some QB performances that have been very solid. I'm putting Mahomes number 1 automatically.
Yeah.
That's just he's the best quarterback in the league. It's just
he's the best player probably.
Not a debate. Yeah. I'm putting Hurts, I think, in that 2 spot again, given how he was in that MVP conversation last year, and then is still having a decent year this year. He's shaking off a little bit of rust, but I'm gonna go with Hurts in that number 2. If healthy, I think Burrow would be in that top 5 for sure. We already established that. I'm putting Lamar top 5 as well. Last year he was hurt quite a bit, so it's not fair to judge as much last year because he missed a bit of games. But we've seen what Lamar's capable of and what he's done so far this year, and I'm putting him top 5. And then I'm not upset with people that put Josh Allen in that top 5. I'm not. But it's just personal opinion because of the turnover battle with himself, the nitty-gritty. This season, I would probably take Tua, like Nick said. I would consider it. I know he has a lot of help from Tyreek and Waddle. And Raheem Mostert's been balling out too. I want to give him some credit where credit's due. But that offense has just looked too high-powered, and he's the focal point of that offense. So
okay, here's my flip side of that, and I love Tua, and this is why I don't even like tearing Tua down. If you took, and this is the classic, I know that I don't always love this one, but just imagine, just visualize number 17, and this hurts my brain to even do, in aqua and in white, throwing to Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, with Mike McDaniel as his head coach. I know that that's not the world that we live in as far as Josh Allen in a considerably much more, we'll just call it favorable offense for quarterbacks. I just think that the 2 players, it's tough because they're completely different players in Josh Allen and Tua, but what Josh Allen has been drafted into and expected of entering the league compared to Tua, and Tua just having an offense completely catered to him and built around him. And like, I get he's overcome a lot as far as injury Tua has. It's just it's just tough. It's two different, completely different situations. Lamar, I don't know. I just think that one's. I get there's some Lamar people. To me, I don't even think it's close. But that's okay. There's some Lamar.
You were talking about how Tua's throwing to Tyreek and Waddle
and Jalen Waddle. Yes.
I always get confused on this. Who is the Bills' like clear-cut wide receiver to?
Gabe Davis.
Okay. Gabe Davis's level's worse than Waddle. I will say that.
And it's really not even And Jalen Waddle's like a wide receiver one on a lot of teams.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned I'm more giving credit to Jalen Waddle.
I would love Jalen Waddle to be my wide receiver one, given how my wide receiver one is Isaiah Hodgins right now.
Well, Keeb, I gotta ask you, like, who'd you think it was the WR2 on the Bills if it wasn't Gabe Davis?
That's who I thought it was. I just want to double check to make sure before I said anything.
I mean, it wouldn't be anybody else.
And the fact that, and I don't even blame Keeb for like the fact that is though, the thought is like, okay, so it's really not even, and that's more credit to the Dolphins. I don't like conceding that our wide receiver core isn't as good as the Dolphins, but it's just like, that is a broken situation for and hey, if that propels to a top 5, top 4, status in the league as far as quarterbacks, it is what it is, because I do think he's like the leading candidate for MVP right now, really based off of 2 weeks. That is based off 2 weeks though, and it's kind of the same thing that we talked about with Aaron Rodgers earlier. I'm not rooting for this. It's a long season ahead of Tua. Okay, that Dolphins offensive line already looking like, I don't think it looks that great. All right, through 2 games, I did not think they looked that great against the Patriots last night. They made it a game there at the end, so we'll see. And I'm not gonna completely. I think Nick was hoping I was gonna come out here and completely like lose my mind at Lamar and Tua over Josh. I don't agree with it, but I'm not gonna sit here and like
You
right
see
now,
on the other side how you could potentially make a case for it. Potentially,
I see how I can't sit here and say it's drastically off, mainly because I think those other players are so good, and I do think highly of them. Lamar is one of those things. Lamar. We'll see with Lamar. It's too early. It's too early, I guess. Like if the season ended today, Tua would be your NFL MVP. It's 2 weeks we're 2 weeks into the season. If Josh doesn't go 3 and out on that first drive, if we don't call a 2nd and 15 run play in overtime, if they don't have a effing kick return to end the game, the Jets do, we could be talking about this completely differently. And that's still a terrible Josh Allen week 1. I'm not even like excusing that. It's it's just one of those things. So, Nick, I apologize if I didn't go as apeshit as you were hoping as far as Lamar and Tua. It's just I patently disagree, but I'm not going to sit here. The stats are what they are. The Kirk Cousins thing too. That's one of those things. That's crazy to me. If you say you'd rather have Kirk Cousins over Josh Allen, even for a season, whatever.
You can admit. I mean, I know that Kirk, like just at one point, I know Kirk does have Justin Jefferson. But, like, if you put him on a better offense than what he's had, he becomes a much more elevated quarterback than.
No.
We want to put him on the 49ers? Because how is it going to get – he has Justin Jefferson. I mean, now his offensive line – you guys are dealing with injuries on the offensive line. I know that's tough.
Cook was dog shit last year.
He was. Alexander Madison, though, who's also looking like dog shit this year.
I picked him on my fantasy team.
It's a bad running game. It's bad.
Well, I mean, part of that goes too. We got a guy.
My dad loves you to death. Just said you can't be serious to you. He loves you to death. He'd agree with you on everything in your life except that. Like, Kirk Cousins, bro. Like,
just for whatchamacallit, just for argument's sake. Week 1, Kirk Cousins had 344 passing yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Week 2, he had 364 passing yards with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. So we're seeing him with the wide receiver 2 being Jordan Addison, I assume.
It's basically it's Hawkinson, and he's incredible.
Yeah, Hawkinson. Okay. Hawkinson is a fantastic tight end, and I saw that last year in the playoffs firsthand. But I'm just saying Kirk is a very good quarterback. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I, for one, am really happy this has come back to Kirk discourse.
Really?
I can't believe it has. I got to go back to a point I made earlier about just situational stats. So like the whether it's turnovers. Kirk Cousins against the Eagles. How much were the Eagles beating the Vikings before Kirk Cousins put up the majority of those stats?
It was okay. All right, listen.
It
It
was
wasn't
like 3
garbage
scores.
time. That game was nowhere near out of hand. The Eagles.
I'm
were
not
trying
saying
to
it was
piss
garbage
away
time.
all
I'm
game.
not saying it was garbage time. I'm saying the Eagles defense was playing accordingly. They weren't. It wasn't the same defense they were playing to start a game 0-0.
Yes, but yes. There's also no threat of the run. There were 9 carries all game, so it was those pass rushers' ears were pinned back that whole second half, and that was a good game. Also, disclaimer for that off of that point, I don't think there's anything Kirk could do to surpass Josh in my eyes this season, just because the tools that Josh has. But I think that's kind of a perfect inflection point of this argument when you talk about the basis of it being, just that erratic type of play. Skinny had a comment I was trying to pull up before my computer shit its pants, comparing Josh to Brett Favre, and I was going to say that exact same thing as well. He's kind of that modern day Brett Favre, where he is just a uber confident gunslinger type quarterback who the coaching staff is always kind of trying to just rein in a little bit almost. But he does have those high highs. There's things he can do on the football field that maybe 3 other guys can do. I think, a lot of times with him, it does just kind of come down to decision making. Josh,
100%, yes.
You don't have to jump over that guy. It's 2nd and 8. Or, hey, Josh, Aaron Rodgers just got hurt. Just hang on to the football. It's kind of one of those things, where, in a similar instance, guys like a Kirk, or, even like a Tua, even a Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has pretty much the same tools. I think you'd say they have comparable arm strength. I think they're comparable in height. Herbert can't scoot quite like Josh, but he also doesn't really have that demeanor. He is that Josh Allen toolkit, with a much more take care of the football kind of mindset. And he's the kind of guy you're kind of trying to unlock a little bit, where it's like, hey, Justin, just push the fucking ball down the field, man. Go crazy. Take some ownership of this. And Josh, you never have to push him that way. And you'd always rather rein a guy in than have to try to ramp him up to go make a big play. You know what I mean?
And one more thing I just want to add really quick. I'm glad you mentioned the turnovers and the thing that for me that keeps Josh in the top 5, and I know I'm obviously a biased Bills fan, with the turnovers is, and this is something that Tua is nowhere near his level at. Lamar Jackson happens to be, Jalen Hurts happens to be, is the rushing output. And what this guy has been expected to do for the team the last several years. It's part of the reason I've actually hesitated to bring it up until this point, is because I think a lot of us as Bills fans are hoping that it does take a considerable step back. But what was it, like 10 plus carries for 50 plus yards against the Jets already week 1? That's, I don't want to say just on its face a losing formula, but something that I do think that the Bills are going to move away from as this season progresses, as he's entering his 6th season. As Dorsey, the offensive coordinator, even mentioned, look, we're trying to eliminate some of that. And Nick, not to be Debbie Downer Bills fan, and I don't remember who was just saying, and to be able to have that guy in Josh's ear to say, we are playing Zach Wilson. I don't know if the Bills have that veteran offensive coach in the building. It really does feel like more of a brotherhood between Dorsey and Allen than it was between Dable and Allen. It's part of the reason when Josh Allen was coming out, I thought he was by far the most talented. I had him so far on who I wanted the Bills to draft because I simply did not know if the Bills had that offensive voice and mind in their building that a team like the Chiefs have in Andy Reid, that a team like the Eagles have discovered that they have in Nick Sirianni. Dable was that guy for them. He isn't there right now, and we all have faith in Dorsey as a play caller. But is there going to be that elder, that leader in the offensive room to rein Josh in, as you mentioned, is the big question. We're 2 weeks in. We didn't have to have anyone tell him to rein it in against the Raiders. We may find out next week against the Commanders who that voice is and if the Bills have it or not.
I do want to say thank you for Brian Dable.
Yeah. Dable's look, Buffalo native, nothing but love for Beanball Dable. All right. And I think Nick's got a little bit of a man. I thought Buff Mafia was going to come in here way more guns a-blazing in defense.
No.
I'm just fucking with you, Nick. But I'm just fucking with you. I was just, but,
yeah. I don't disagree. I just, yes, we're all good football bands, Big Pete. I'm just gonna say that I think a lot of Bills fans agree with what you just said, that there's no we don't want it to be Diggs that has to be the guy that yells at him.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you.
We want it to be a coach, preferably somebody who has a lot of. When Josh comes in the press conference and says, I'll have a lot of confidence in Dorsey. Yeah, of course you do. But you're bros with him. There's a difference between being bros with somebody and having somebody yell at you didn't do well. Because Dorsey would never do that. He'd be like, listen, that didn't work out. We're gonna try to fix that in the next play. And Josh is like, yeah. Dable would be like, the fuck are you that's not what we do here. We don't hold ourselves to that standard. And then he understands that. And you saw it. I think that last week I played the most poised game of his career, and that's a big, testament to his character and the player that he is. Because a lot of wouldn't be able to do that after having such a treacherous game week 1 to come back, bring it back, not get too down, and put out an incredible week 2. Now we're in a situation. What are you going to do? Is it going to be bad? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be middle? I don't know. We'll see. But yes, you're so right. We need somebody who can be. And McDermott isn't him because he's a defensive mind. McDermott is essentially just the DC. He is the defensive coordinator, but he's the head coach because he's been here so long. They literally respect him for being here for so long, but he's not a head coach type. So that's why they took that out of, completely. He's just the DC now, Leslie Frazier. So the offense is completely up to Dorsey, who I'm loving that he's starting to incorporate the run a lot more. I think that helps Josh in incredible amounts of ways. It is exceptionally improved his game this season in that one game on Sunday. You can see James Cook getting into the offense. We never saw Singletary run the way that Cook is running. So I think that
much different run styles. I was going to say much different with those guys for sure.
Yeah,
and with Harris being part of that tandem too, you compare that to Singletary and Zach Moss.
Night and day.
I think that's a huge upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 3 huge guys, 2 huge guys. It's Harris and Latavius Murray, who's ageless apparently.
Latavius Murray's a big dude.
He's huge.
6'3".
He's huge. Everybody around me was like, "Wait, who the hell is that?" I was like, "Here's Latavius Murray." And then you got James Cook, who's in the top 5 in rushing through 2 weeks, and he'll probably stay top 5, top 7, realm throughout the first few weeks here. So I think that it's a good thing that they've started to incorporate the run. I think it helped Josh a lot. When Singletary would get us 2 yards and make it 2nd and 8, Josh is well, word, okay, great. Now I got to do everything, and now I'm going to start making mistakes. Happens. Imagine when you have 2nd and 3s and 2nd and 4s, and he can hit Knox and Kincaid for just intermediate routes and not have to go balls to the wall. It's 3rd and 13. I got to run over somebody. Diggs, get open, please. That's not a recipe for success. So I think that they kind of just the blueprint on Sunday of what they should do. It's not going to happen every week at all. That was a bad Las Vegas defense, but that's the blueprint. That's what they want to do every week. So that they were able to have that type of game where everything was working. If they won that game 16-10, we'd be sitting here nah, we suck. That's just we won. Yeah, great. We don't care. The fact that they won and in the way that they did, I think that it'll just transcend the offensive. I think that we've seen this Bills offense be really good in the playoffs. You can't win if you don't have a really good running game. We finally have an opportunity to do that, and it's going to change the way that Josh plays to have him stay in that top 5.
Yeah, that was like the perfect bounce back game for Josh. You know, it was kind of the perfect other side of the spectrum that we see from him, right? You know, he corrected a lot of that, just erratic play, dialed it in, took his time, went through his progressions, was super, super poised. So, you know, that was, I think, you know, for you guys as Bills fans and in that building, that had to have been just exactly the type of game you wanted to see out of Josh, where it's like, hey, I can do this too. You know, I can manage the game. I can march us up and down the field against a team we should beat, and the Jets were a team they should beat as well after that A-Rod injury. So, you know, that's exactly what you want to see, and I think, yeah, you've got that blueprint now moving forward. Say, hey, Josh, let's just kind of keep it right in there. That's kind of the sweet spot, you know. Let's and again, I bring this up all the time, but like there was that one on the goal line. Thankfully, it was his college teammate Marcus Epps who caught him in the air and slam him down too hard. But he's still like I think you see that just you know, let me win it all on one play mentality. Even when he runs the football, he gets out in space and he's just like touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And he's like, you know, it's like, Josh, let's just slide. Let's just get a few yards. Let's stay on schedule. You know what I mean? So, but you know, I think that's exactly what you want to see, and it's a great sign moving forward for him. And you know, later in his career, Vern, you mentioned you'd want to see the amount of carries he gets dialed back. I think that'll come with maturity, you know, and the same thing will go for as a passer. I think he'll, you know, start to take his time, stop trying to get it all at once. I mean, you saw that with Mahomes early on, and then he was kind of forced to dial his play back a little bit with the departure of Tyreek Hill. He said, "Okay, I'll just beat you this way. We'll go West Coast and we'll dink and dunk up and down the field, and I just won't make mistakes." And I think you'll see that type of correction from Josh. I do have a ton of faith in him to get there. But you guys are both right. I think you still need some either veteran guidance on the roster or a coach who's really going to be in his ear and kind of keep him on the straight and narrow when it comes to those turnover-worthy plays.
Yeah, I think you need a little bit more. I don't want to say you need more help and that you need to add someone, but you need a little bit more efficiency from your guys in context. And what I mean by that is the Chiefs near, or I think number 1 in the NFL last year in yards after catch. The Bills, they were either last or right near the bottom last year in run after catch. And a little bit of that is play calling, a little bit of that is the quarterback and where they're getting the guys the ball. But you know, to have some more help like that number has got to go up for the Bills this year, whether that's getting the running backs involved in the screen game, you know, whether that's helping Josh see this high completion percentage that he has right now, number 1 in the NFL through 2 weeks, through play design or whatever it may be. Action. Yeah, a little Khalil Shakir action. You know, incredible. And then again, that was that arm angle. And, you know, whether that also or could come through a Kincaid, through a Knox. You know, I think both those guys display a lot of run after catch ability. So, you know, we'll see. Man, what an NFL season. It's already off to such a hot start, such fun stuff, unless you're a Jets fan. Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Well, that's a perfect segue. And Byrne, let us know if you need to jump off, but you're more than welcome to stick with us for the rest of this conversation.
I appreciate it, guys. I probably got to head out, but I just want to thank you guys so much for having me on. And guys, I'll definitely we'll be in touch. And this was a fun time. Let's go.
For sure, man. Yeah, been a blast. Hit us up if you ever want to come back on. Thanks, brother. So yeah, I think, you know, as he kind of zoomed out a little bit, talking about how great an NFL season this is, I do want to kind of zoom out and talk about a few more teams around the league that are struggling early. So I've got 8 0-2 teams that I'm going to read off to you guys, and we're going to play a little game called Dead in the Water. And there are going to be a few teams here that I just want your takes on if you think they still have an inkling of a shot to make the playoffs or, make for a reputable season. It's been, there's a lot that's always made after week 2, that 0-2 statistic. Only 10% of teams that start 0-2 make the playoffs. But I think there's a good few teams here that are solid teams that we could see make a push. But we're going to talk about who those teams might be. So here are the 8 0-2 teams. It's Bengals, Chargers, Vikings, Patriots, Bears, Broncos, Panthers, and Cardinals. And it might be a little easier to do it this way. So, Nick, for you, what's one of those teams that jumps out to you as, hey, they'll figure it out, and you think you'll see them in the playoffs here come January?
Yeah. So, funnily enough, I'm actually not going to say Cincinnati because I don't want to go that route.
Nice.
It's an easy route to go, and I honestly might not even see them do that just because of how.
I don't think it's that easy, personally.
Okay, so I was gonna hand that one to you, Zach, but I'm gonna actually go with your Vikings just because of how bad. Yeah, just because of how bad the division is looking. What we got there. If the Lions were 2-0, then I'd be like, hey, not, and now they lose CJ. So if the Vikings have anything, they'll have a shot, at the playoffs in this division. Just starting 0-2, Kirk, you guys talked about it. Apparently he's a top 5 quarterback. Hey, listen, if he is, then they're definitely going to turn it around, and he's been playing really well. So if anything, it's going to be Minnesota. As Joe Biden says, Minnesota. But and if not, I guess I would say Cincinnati as well.
I like that one, and I want to add one little tidbit to that as well. This Vikings team, through 2 weeks, this offense is second in the league in EPA per play, estimated points added, second only to the Dolphins. And keep in mind they can't run the football to save their lives either. So I mean the explosiveness of this offense and this passing game in particular, it's tough to count them out of any single game, frankly. Just the way they can put points on the board and the way they can stretch the field. But the defense is looking a lot better than last year, especially from a schematic standpoint. Just brought Dalton Reisner into the building. So, I mean, sounds like a playoff team to me. And, I would say the Chargers. I would say the Chargers if they weren't going to be 0-3 after this week.
That's where I was going. So that's actually a good segue for where I was going to go. I think the Chargers have a good chance to bounce back. Definitely more than a team like the Bengals, who your star quarterback who just signed a massive extension goes down for who knows how long. You have T. Higgins, who's been underperforming this year. But I'm going to steer away from that route and go the Chargers route for them not being dead in the water. You have an electric quarterback in Justin Herbert, and you have the offensive pieces to fill those holes. I don't know. It's not their offense that hasn't been clicking. It's been their defense. And I think that whether it has to be a new defensive coordinator, whether it has to be moving around a couple guys, maybe playing someone to cover the slot, things like that. But I think the Chargers have a good chance. I don't know when Eckler comes back. I didn't get to see. I didn't see
Probably
the timetable.
week, but maybe soon.
What did you say?
Probably not this week, but maybe soon, maybe by week 4 or 5.
Okay, so let's say you get him back.
You're just hoping that. You're just hoping that.
Say you get Eckler by week 4. Now you have a healthy Keenan, healthy Mike Will, healthy Eckler, a good O-line. That offense is just going to be too high-powered, in my opinion, for them to not make any noise.
Yeah. I think it comes down to Staley for the most part, the defensive architect over there. brings over that Fangio-style defense. The Chargers are the only team in the history of the NFL to start 0-2 despite scoring over 50 points through those 2 games and having 0 turnovers in those 2 games. So it is 100% all on the defense. There's plenty of weapons on that offense. I love the offensive line. When Eckler's healthy, they're really able to run the ball as well. Kellen Moore doing a great job with that offense. And Joshua Kelly's fine as well. You know, they might be able to run the ball here this week as well. The Vikings only roster 2 men over 300 pounds. So, you know, Justin Herbert, if you've got anybody's ear, tell him to run the ball. But you know, it's going to be tough because one of those teams is going to be 0-3 after this week. We've got a big Super Bowl preview, Vikings Chargers week 3. But you know, I like that team too. That's what the bummer is. You guys remember all my pontifications over the off season about the Chargers, how this is the year. Got some pushback from our resident Chiefs fans in Dan and Trevor, and you know, it might not go that way. It might be one more year for those guys. Maybe once Staley's out of there, it's a different story. But you know, just to give a little bit of credit to a team that I think is going to be feisty out of this group, if nothing else, the Patriots. They're going to play teams tough. That defense is going to be good. Mac Jones has been pretty good, all things considered, with the offensive line, with the dearth of weapons they have. Kendrick Bourne is your number 1 wide receiver, is pretty tough. You got Henry and Gesicki there. They've been able to move the ball somehow, and I really like that defense. So they might be a little feisty, but you know, as far as the Bengals go, yes, that's the easy answer technically. One of the best defensive coordinators in the league. At its best, it's one of the best offenses in the league, but Burrow is still banged up. And they're also just not – they're really not getting those explosives that you'd like to see from that type of offense. So, and that's might be the toughest division in football as well. Since the Aaron Rodgers injury, I think it was a little closer before then. But the AFC North is, in my opinion, unequivocally the best division in football. Those guys are going to beat the shit out of each other. You got to play those teams 6 times a year, so it could get ugly for the Bengals. We might see them miss the playoffs, honestly.
Also,
go ahead.
Do we want to jump into the 0-2 teams that don't have a chance? I mean, most of them are self-explanatory, but I want to say
just the rest of them. I think we all kind of agree: Bears, Broncos, Panthers, Cardinals, pretty much dead in the water. Bears,
for real.
What the AT double hockey sticks is going on with the Broncos over there?
Yeah, Bears fans, start mock drafting. Cardinals, you suck. Panthers,
you suck.
Yeah, Cardinals, you suck.
Panthers, you're ruining Bryce Young. Adam Thielen's washed. I tried to tell everybody. And he's had really difficult circumstances for a rookie starter. The Broncos, fuck Sean Payton for life. So I'm loving that 0-2 start for them. And yeah, by the way, is Sean Payton getting a little Bounty Gate 2.0 going with Kareem Jackson? Two unnecessary roughnesses in 2 games on big shots to defenseless wide receivers. But you know, I was never all the way in on that team. You know, they'll probably edge the Raiders for 3rd in the division, but you know, I think the Chargers and Chiefs are leagues ahead of both of those teams. So I don't see anything coming for the Broncos there. One other thing I wanted to touch on, our good friend Simon Short of Bite Size Steelers is our resident Steelers fan, and I wanted to talk about the Steelers a little bit. So you remember me predicting them as AFC North champs in the offseason and in the preseason. I still think that will be the case. I really do. It's as tough as the Ravens look, as tough as the Browns look with that loss of Chubb. 2019 Deshaun Watson is not walking through that door. Kevin Stefanski, you can scheme up a run game all you want, but if it's Jerome Ford and maybe an older Kareem Hunt coming off a hiatus, like it's just not going to be the same. It's going to be good. It should still be a good run game. That offensive line's ridiculous. I like the pieces on defense, but that Steelers pass rush duo, ridiculous. The rest of that defense, phenomenal. Leadership at the top with Mike Tomlin, phenomenal, top tier. Kenny Pickett is fine. George Pickens is the best receiver in the NFL, and I love George Pickens. And
I won my fantasy game yesterday. I love you too, George.
yeah, but if they're not able to figure out that running game, it's going to be really tough. And Najee Harris is not. He's not very good.
He looks so slow. Like,
Good. It's not.
Did you see that one play? Sorry to cut you off.
You're good.
Where he ran to the left and then broke a tackle and then looked like he was moving in slow motion going back to the right. He still picked up 17 yards. But he just looks so slow.
It's been very underwhelming. Jalen Warren looks like he has a little more juice than Najee running the ball, frankly. So if they're not able to figure that out, it's going to be tough. Since Matt Canada arrived in Pittsburgh as the offensive coordinator, the Steelers have not had over 400 yards of total offense in a game. And that's in the last 3 seasons. And actually dating back to, I think it was like early 2020, the last time they had over 400 yards of total offense in a given game. And that's ridiculous. Every other team in the NFL has had at least 3 in that span. Games over 400 yards of total offense. The Steelers scored 26 points yesterday, or Sunday, excuse me. Wait, yeah, yesterday.
Monday, no, it was yesterday.
Good, we're good. Yesterday, they scored 26 points. They entered the red zone on 0 possessions. You know, it's a ridiculous offense. Matt Canada should be coaching in Canada. It's a bad look. But because the
Shout out
defense,
TJ Watt for saving that parlay.
so good. Shout
Shout
out
out TJ Watt for being the best player in the league.
Steelers money line.
I had Steelers and Saints parlay money line. 88 to make 210 profit, I think.
Nice. Yeah, that was. And Alex Highsmith is for effing real on the opposite edge of TJ Watt. Keanu Benton looks awesome, that nose tackle out of Wisconsin. So I think the defense is going to be electric. I think they're going to play the division foes really, really tough. And like I said, those teams are going to beat the shit out of each other. It could be 2 of them making the playoffs, could be 3. We'll see how it goes. I still like the Steelers to turn it around, but I just wanted to call out that offense a little bit. I mean, we've seen people doing so in the national media as well, but I do really like that team, and I hope they can figure it out. Outside of that, I think we could just get into some quick rapid fire picks for this upcoming week.
Oh boy.
And if you want them more in depth, you can go over to the Sportsbook Junkies podcast to see those picks more in depth that we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, check out Sportsbook Junkies yesterday. They went through all the odds on all the week 3 games. And you know what might be a little bit more conducive to time here, since we're running a little bit long? Why don't we just do our game of the week? Our game of the week like we did last week, just looking ahead. One game that you're not going to miss and why. Nick, I'm not on my computer. Can you pull up the this week's slate on screen share quick?
Yeah, no problem.
One game I genuinely do want to miss, as much as it hurts to say, is the 49ers-Giants game. We're about to get blown out of the effing water.
Yeah, you're still gonna watch it though. So.
I'm still gonna watch it, but I don't want to because it's gonna be 44-3.
It very well might be. I don't know. They might have figured it out a little bit. They might keep it kind of close, but
No, absolutely not. No
We'll
faith.
see.
No
Ye of little faith. All right, so either of you guys can go first if you'd like. Otherwise, I know the game that I'm looking at.
Is
So
it Chargers Vikings?
No, actually, I've talked about that.
Oh yeah, it's not.
Well,
just to get it knocked off the board, Jets
Wait, there's
Patriots.
more games.
What'd you say?
I said, wait, there's more games.
Yeah.
I have it pulled up right here. So,
Ah.
I
Okay.
think my game's going to be Jets Patriots. An inter-division rival. I think the Jets have had to play that. No, they played the Cowboys last week. Never mind, or 2 days ago. Their second division rival already that they have to play. The Jets are underdogs at home against the Patriots. I don't see the logic in that, and I'm riding Jets.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
It's really just Belichick versus the Jets, I feel like.
Yeah.
I'm still going Jets money line on that, but
Ooh.
I think that
Yeah.
the Jets can definitely figure out an offensive scheme to at least produce something against the Patriots. And the Patriots don't have a high-powered offense at all. Their wide receiver one is like Hunter Henry. And their tight end is Mike Gesicki.
No, it's
so what?
Hunter Henry and they have Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker.
Okay, none of which have done like anything this year.
No, they have. And the Belichick's defense crushed Zach
Henry has
Wilson.
a touchdown, but they have Ramondre, who we'll see if he can get the run game off against the Jets, who have a solid D line. But that's the one I'm definitely tuning into. I know I'm going to chirp my boy who's a Jets fan, even though I'm going to have money on the Jets just because I hate Zach Wilson. And then rock with that. That's my game.
Yeah, I like that one. You know, I think it's going to be interesting to see two great defenses going at it. But at the end of the day, I think I'm picking Belichick to really just fluster an opposing quarterback that looks like an Olsen twin.
Yeah, me too.
He looks like every basic white girl put together.
All of them. Yep. You know, so
Oh.
it's gonna be a potential bloodbath. I do like having the Jets defense in fantasy for this particular matchup. But you know, I think the same for the Pats. I think there's gonna be plenty of turnovers. It's gonna be a real grinded out type of football game, and you know, those are some of my favorite ball games. Personally, I'm a defense guy, so for me, I'm looking at Falcons Lions.
Damn,
There's
that was my game.
touch on briefly, but Falcons Lions is going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be a real litmus test for that Lions defense, in the sense that these Falcons they play like a military college team on offense. They're going to run it down your throat with the likes of Tyler Algier, Cordell Patterson, and Bijan Robinson. Robinson has, through his first two games, he is second all-time in scrimmage yards in his first two NFL games, behind just Adrian Peterson, if I'm not mistaken. And that Lions defense was really porous against the run last year. And, you know, we haven't really seen them have to contend with a particularly strong running game so far this season. So it'll be interesting to see how they do there. And you've also got a much improved Falcons defense that could potentially give Ben Johnson some issues from a schematic standpoint. We've seen Calais Campbell look great at 37 or however old he is. David Onyemata, Jesse Bates with the 2 picks week 1. The big free agent acquisition. AJ Terrell is one of the 3 or 4 best corners in the National Football League, and I think they could give him some problems. I like the Falcons in this one. I've been riding the Falcons really all off season. That offensive line is tremendous. Detroit's as well. But I think it's going to be a really fun game to just see how they match up with a team like this from a Detroit perspective. And for Atlanta, this is a real test as well, to see if they're able to separate themselves from the other surprise 2-0 teams in their division. But I also am going to love to see Rams Bengals. It would be so funny for the Rams to beat the Bengals. The Puka Nacua story has been awesome. I knew he would be a good fit coming from a BYU offense that was very similar to a McVay style offense. I thought he would slot into that Robert Woods role, but I didn't think it would be to this extent, getting 25 targets, or excuse me, 32 or something targets through 2 games, 20 targets just last week. And Stafford's really hot. So if the Bengals drop to 0-3, and suddenly the Rams, everybody was shitting on all offseason, look pretty legit, I think that would be a really interesting storyline. But Nick, what do you got for game of the week here?
All right. So I'm gonna actually go with this one right here. I really like this game.
Nice.
First game of the Monday night. So we're gonna have 2 good Monday night games, presumably. Obviously the Charger Viking game is good, but I just don't want to pick a game like that. I would also pick Washington Bills is a good game, and the 49ers Giants is a good game. Cool. We have 3 good games this week for our teams. Keeve doesn't think so. I think that's still going to be a close game. We have 3 good games, but let's try to go. We've gone away from our team, so let's do that. So I really like this game right here. Tampa, let's see it, y'all. Let's see, right? This is finally it, 2-0. You beat who and who. All right, now we got the defending NFC champions, right? So we have a game in your building. We got it Monday night, the first game, right?
Stadium.
Yeah, and then we got Philly coming in, who is kind of pissed off because they're 2-0, but they've won in weird ways, and they're not happy about how they've won. I know that. So he's gonna come in pissed off. Tampa Bay's gonna try to prove that they're really good because everybody's because Tampa right now is do we have your attention now? No, we don't. You don't have our attention yet because you haven't been any yet. You don't have our attention at all. We don't really trust you. I wouldn't expect. I'm gonna check real quick. I wouldn't expect them to be favored, even though they're at home.
Mm-hmm.
Keith, are they favored?
You remember what I told you last week about Vikings-Eagles matchup? How I thought that the Brian Flores defense would actually give them some trouble, particularly in the passing game.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
Hurts under 200 yards, was really flustered, threw a pick, had to scramble on almost every third down. Oh, my daughter's walking over to me. Honey, go to bed, please.
And what have we said?
Come here. And this is another like that. The Todd unit. The Eagles have seen Belichick, Flores. Now they're going to see Todd Bowles. Same kind of thing. Might send some issues for them. Come here, baby.
So it's not that I'm hating on the Bucs. They don't have your attention yet. I'm saying prove it to me this week. Even if you hang in, you don't have to win the game. Prove it to me. Hang in. Don't get blown out. And we have an opportunity at a pretty good, solid Tampa team.
Yeah, the Buccaneers are 5-point underdogs against
at home. Yeah, that's not good. I would take them with the points.
Oh,
no, John.
I think we might have lost John, but
we live.
You
hit a button on me.
2 things I just want to bring up really quickly. They don't have to do with the game. I'm watching SNY and I just saw 2 very outrageous things. Number 1, Daboll's not counting Saquon out just yet for this upcoming game against the 49ers. I think that's bullshit. He should be out probably 3 weeks so he can heal and not risk injury. Number 2, people are already calling Kayvon Thibodeau a bust because he hasn't done anything in the first 2 games. I think that's a little BS also. I think he just has to find his groove that he had last year, and then he'll be set. But to call him a bust in his second year is kind of come on.
No, I agree with – I disagree with the Saquon thing. I think that – no, so what I saw was that Daboll said that he is a really quick healer. So maybe he maybe to hey, I'm fine. I don't know. Because he wouldn't – First of all, Dable's a smart guy. I know that. And Saquon wouldn't want to play if he wasn't cool to play. So, like, game time decision, I'm sure he won't play, but, like, that's really good news. Like, I'm sure he won't play, but I think that just the fact that he's going to be a game time decision, maybe he plays next week. As bad as they thought.
I think just give him time to heal because we're basically destined to lose that game right off the bat. But
and yeah, you guys have some tough games coming up too. So
yeah, we have a very tough schedule this year. Looking at
but I feel like that's why you would want him though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what sucks about those Thursday night games. You get a little sprain on Sunday, and that 4-day turnaround's nowhere near enough to get you 100%. To put it frankly, if Saquon plays, he's going to be pretty doped up.
Yeah, exactly.
By that shot where you can't feel any pain, and then you're just gonna be running it out,
and then feel it. Yeah, I don't know how good of an idea that is.
You're gonna give him some like morphine or some shit. Sorry, language, but
yep. So we'll see.
Don't feel it tonight.
But I like all those games. And we will be right back at it next Tuesday. I won't be here. So I'll be on my honeymoon, but these two guys will be holding it down. We'll have similar stuff coming at you. We'll have team-specific podcasts for the NFL dropping this week. We've got Bite-Size Vikes, Bite-Size Steelers, Bite-Size Colts, Bite-Size Titans, and Bite-Size Bears, all dropping this week. Stay right here on the channel tomorrow for all your fantasy tips and tricks with another damn fantasy podcast. On Thursday, we've got the bounce. If you're into basketball, sounds like Keeves will be on there as well.
Not next week.
Not this week, but you'll see him around.
I'll be on this week, but not next week.
Gotcha. Okay. And then we've also got Sportsbook Junkies for all your sports betting needs, hosted by the man right above me here, Zach Keebler. That was a really fun first show. And that'll be Mondays then going forward?
It'll be Mondays at either 7 or 9, depending on when I can get people to join me, basically.
Gotcha.
Monday
nights.
I'll join you.
But,
yeah, me and we'll be in there.
Yeah, we'll be in there.
But yeah, other than that, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Stick around for next week and Skull Vikes. Right? This has been Necessary Roughness, brought to you by Bite Size Sports. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk soon.
Peace, boys.
Peace.
Bye.